So, when you think about India, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Probably its sheer size, right? A vast, sprawling country. But what if I told you that its specific location, I mean, exactly where it sits on the globe, is the real key to understanding not just its own history, but the history of the world? That's what we're going to dig into today.
I mean, think about this for a second. We've got the Atlantic, the Pacific, the Arctic, and then you have the Indian Ocean. It is literally the only ocean on the entire planet named after a country. And that is no accident. It's our first and probably biggest clue that for India, geography has always been destiny.
All right, so let's zoom out and start with that big picture, India's place on the map. It's not just about where it is, but how it sits, perfectly positioned at the center of some of Asia's most vital crossroads. Just look at this. India isn't just another part of Asia. It's this massive peninsula that juts straight south, right into the Indian Ocean. This totally unique position has made it a natural bridge for centuries, connecting the economies and cultures of East Asia with West Asia. Okay, so we see its strategic spot on the globe. Now let's get a little more precise. To really get a feel for its scale, we've got to decode the coordinates. You know, the lines of latitude and longitude that define India's massive physical footprint. So if you look at it vertically, from top to bottom, India lies entirely in the northern hemisphere. From its northernmost tip all the way down to the southern mainland, it stretches over 3,200 kilometers. That incredible range is exactly what gives it such a huge diversity in climate, in ecosystems, and even in the length of the day.
Now, let's go the other way, horizontally. From west to east, it spans nearly 3,000 kilometers. And what's kind of fascinating here is this little quirk of geography. The span in degrees is almost the same as north to south, but the actual distance is shorter. So why is that? Well, it's because lines of longitude actually get closer and closer together as they race up towards the poles. Pretty cool, huh? And check this out. This one line, the Tropic of Cancer, slices right through the middle of India. What that means is the southern half is firmly in the tropical zone, while the northern half is in the subtropics. It's one of the big reasons for the incredible variety of landscapes you find all across the country. So we've got its location, we've got its shape, but now let's talk about the sheer scale of it all. Just how big is this subcontinent really?
It seems like such a simple question, doesn't it? But the answer? Well, it really puts the rest of the world into perspective. The numbers we're about to see are truly staggering. Just take a moment and let that number sink in. 3.28 million square kilometers. This isn't just a country, it's a landmass on a scale that absolutely earns it the title of a subcontinent. So what does that massive number mean globally? Well, believe it or not, India's landmass makes up just 2.4% of the world's total area. But here's the kicker. The crucial point is what India does with that 2.4%, supporting a huge portion of the world's entire population.
In the global rankings of size, India comes in at number 7. It's right behind giants like Russia, Canada, and China. This gives you a really clear visual of where it stands in the world. And the boundaries themselves are just as impressive. You've got a land border stretching over 15,000 kilometers and a coastline, if you include its islands, that runs for more than 7,500 kilometers. And that massive coastline, it is a critical part of this whole story. Now, having such a huge east-to-west expanse creates a really fascinating problem. How do you keep a country that big running on the same time? Let's take a look. So, because of the Earth's rotation, the sun actually rises about 2 hours earlier in the far east of India than it does in the far west. Just imagine if everyone went by their local sun time. People in Gujarat would just be starting their day, while people over in Arunachal Pradesh might be getting ready for lunch. It would be absolute chaos.
So how do you solve a problem like that? Well, with a pretty elegant compromise. The time for the whole country is standardized along this single line of longitude, the standard meridian, which passes right through the middle of the country. So everyone in India, no matter where they are, sets their watches to this one time. It creates unity out of all that geographical diversity.
Okay, so we've seen the location, the scale, and even how time itself is managed across this huge space. Now let's bring it all together. How did this unique geography turn India into a global crossroads for trade, for ideas, and for culture?
You know, we often focus on sea trade, but India's first real connections to the rest of the world, they were forged on foot. For centuries, travelers, traders, and scholars crossed the great mountain passes up in the north. These land routes were the original global networks, connecting India with the rest of Asia long before ships ruled the waves.
But here's the thing. It wasn't just spices and textiles that were traveling along these routes. It was world-changing ideas. We're talking about philosophy from the Upanishads, epic stories like the Ramayana, and revolutionary mathematics like the decimal system and the concept of zero. All of it flowed out from India, and it fundamentally shaped the world we live in today. And then, in 1869, a single event completely supercharged India's strategic location for the modern world: the opening of the Suez Canal. All of a sudden, the sea journey to Europe was slashed by 7,000 kilometers, placing India right at the center of the world's most important maritime highway. A total game changer.
And of course, this geography also defines relationships much closer to home. India's central position in South Asia creates these deep, complex, and totally unavoidable links with all of its neighbors, links that have been forged by shared borders and centuries of intertwined history.
So you see, from ancient land routes to modern shipping lanes, from its diverse climate to its very culture, India's story has been written by its geography. And that leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? As our world keeps changing, how will this unique size and location shape the next chapter of India's story?